Coco Root.
Yo, yo,
What's
yo.
up? What's
Let's
up? Are
go.
they getting in the room? Are they coming in?
It's
Coming in the room.
Thursday.
It's Thursday, y'all. It's good to be back. I'm telling y'all that. Welcome, 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 welcome. I'm gonna give them a little bit of time to get in the room, or y'all just want to go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah,
Y'all
we
want
got
to?
a
they'll
couple
catch up.
things.
They'll catch
We
Oh,
got
up.
a
all
couple
right.
things to
Well,
get into.
what's up to everybody who's in here? Hey, y'all. Happy Thursday. Welcome to another episode of Root Access Live. We are your hosts. I'm Coco. I got my brothers to the left and the right, Mr. Root and Jinx. We got another hot show for y'all tonight, and with so much going on in the world and so much to discuss, it's only right we got the perfect guest tonight. So you may have seen him on Wendy Williams, or you may have heard him on the Tom Joyner Show. But ladies and gentlemen, tonight's guest is renowned columnist, editor, and most energetic TV host, Mr. Jawn G. Murray. Yes, y'all, he's gonna hang out with us tonight. We're gonna talk George Floyd, the importance of voting, Kanye West, Juneteenth, Allen Iverson, and Reebok. And
Yep.
again, thanks for tuning in tonight. Now let's go through our social media drill. If you are new here, welcome, 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 and please like and subscribe to all our platforms at Root Access Live, and also hit the share button right now if you are watching. Thank you to everyone who submitted their music to the Rooted and Booted segment. Keep on. Keep on submitting. We need music so that we can get this segment popping. Again, we have sole opinionship of what's played here, so just keep them coming. We're gonna keep it 100 with you. What's up, fam?
Absolutely.
What's
What's
going
up,
on?
Coco? Welcome back.
What's
I
up? I
know
know
last
it's
week
been
was
a
different without you
journey.
here.
It was
I
very,
missed y'all,
very
but guess
different.
what? I watched y'all. I was on the road. I was watching y'all. Y'all did really well. It got heated. Jinx, you turned red like your hair, but it was good.
It did get heated. It did get heated.
It did. It
I need to
did.
watch
But
where I'm going.
I felt the sincerity in y'all voices and the anger and the pain in y'all last week. And I read the comments, and people were encouraging you all. And again, it's been a journey, and I haven't had any time to protest because I was in Alabama funeralizing my great grandmother who had just turned 93 years old. So I was in
Wow.
Alabama. That was a long drive,
Condolences.
guys. I'm telling y'all. I didn't want to
Woo.
fly.
I
I
don't know
did
how
want
you
to
did that
fly.
drive.
No, well, I wanted to fly, but I felt like it was safer
No,
if
it
we
definitely
had
was
driven.
safer. It
So,
definitely was safer.
my family and I, five of us went down. I mean, it was a small ceremony. They only did, it was
SP.
limited. Thank you.
I
Oh,
don't think he's
he
talking
like
to
your
you.
hair. Oh, he
He,
talking to
the
you. He
red
like your
hair.
hair. Yeah. He talking to you.
Uh,
Um, it was a drive. I mean, we stopped a few times. 15 hours was the drive if we had driven straight from Trenton to Lavaca, Alabama, but it took us about 18 with the stops, and but when I was on the drive, don't you don't have to do that. I did it. I did
Because
it
I
already.
can't drive. I cannot drive past 7 hours. 7 hours is my max, yo. I,
Max.
you know,
So that's
I
you
get
can't
caught.
even make it to south of the border. South of the border
No,
is eight
Virginia.
hours.
Nah, is it for me, man. I don't like. I remember driving to Florida, and that ride was like 22 hours, and I promised God I will never drive in a car that. And mind you, I wasn't even driving, and I was just in the car, and it was just too much. But
Well,
that's just me.
I
People like driving.
I sat in the front seat and I drove. I drove some of the way. My uncle drove the most of the way, but I drove some of the way. My grandmother and my sister, as well as my nephew, sat in the back. So it was pretty cool. We had some laughs, But like I'm gonna tell y'all this: if I never have to visit Lavaca, Alabama again, I won't. And there's only one reason that I'm going back. Only my great grandmother could get me to drive 15 hours first of all, or 18 hours first of all, anywhere. I don't care where it is.
Yeah,
But the fact I mean, eventually, I thought that we were going to be able to bring her body back, but due to the nature of the pandemic and everything that's going on right now, it just was very costly, and it just it wasn't the ideal situation to bring her back. So we drove down. But she made as long as I've been alive, she's always instilled in me to get married and have a child. So the next time I do visit Lavaca, Alabama,
I
huh?
I'm
never
gonna
even
be
heard of
home.
that part of Alabama. Am I?
It's let me tell you this. It's down it's 45 minutes from Mississippi, one way, and
Wow.
2.5 exactly. Wait, remember on House Party when he was like parents down south, way down south? That's where I was, way down south. But it
Way
was
down.
it's 45 minutes from Mississippi and about 2.5 hours from Florida. It's called Lavaca. It's close to Mobile and Butler,
Gotcha.
Alabama. Yeah.
Okay.
So the next time
And
I
what
go
was it
back,
like?
I promise.
Was there some Southern hospitality going on there, or when I go down south, that's what I like the South for, the Southern
No,
hospitality.
there was not. I have never felt so unwelcomed in my life, and to tell you that this was family. So no, I did not have a great time down south. I did what I was supposed to do by my great grandmother, but as far as the family is concerned, I never have to see those people again. They were very
What?
unwelcoming. They were not warming at all. I mean, they treated us as if we had COVID-19. I mean, before we even got down there, we were preconceived that we already had the disease.
Because you're from
And
up
then,
north.
because I'm from up north, but knowing me, I did the research and I checked their numbers. They have just as many cases as we have, and we have better health care than they do. So, I was just annoyed the whole time, and then it's just like you said, whatever happened to Southern hospitality? I'd never been down south and my family treated me, as if I was some stranger on the street or if I was a dog out in the street.
Right.
It's just as if I didn't breathe the same air as them. And like I said, it was, as far as the family goes, it was a miserable 5 days. But in my immediate family, we had a great time. We memorialized and we did what my grandmother was supposed to do. We did what we were supposed to do.
Oh, that's good.
But I am so glad to be back.
I know
you
you're glad.
no idea.
There's no place like home, right?
Right.
It's no place like home. I love Trenton, New Jersey. I wanted to kiss the ground, but it's too dirty out.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
So what y'all been up to? What's on y'all feet today? It's been a while. We ain't do that. Y'all slacking these days.
I know.
Thanks,
It's, we've been talking.
that.
We've been talking really heavy lately,
Yes.
so it's just like that really didn't have its place. I think we may have done it last week just to kind of break up the monotony, but we got to get back to our segment.
Let's get back to it.
Yeah, I thought you would want that.
I'll start it off. I'm going with the theme. I'm going with the leopard theme today.
I see.
Okay,
so leopard, right. And then you pull out the Jordan 3s. Leopard.
All right, I like.
It's like pony skin and leopard. My wife actually has a pair of these too, so we were matching for our anniversary. Like really corny like that, but yeah, these are a little different. Everybody won't wear these, but you know me, I don't care.
Do you have Jordan stock? Like, do you have stock in the Jordan brand?
No, I probably need to get some, right?
I mean, yeah, because I think that's all you wear.
It's really not.
I said that too. Now he tried to make a statement 2 weeks ago, and he mentioned that I don't just wear Nike or I don't just wear Jordan. Remember, he brought out like the mixtape Puma or something like that.
Yeah, see,
is that the Yo MTV?
The one-off
and the Stan Smith,
the one-offs.
I do have a lot of Jordans.
The one-offs in the back of the closet that you only pull out for this segment that you don't really wear anymore.
That is not true. I wore those.
You can say you wear more than just Jordan.
You fronting?
I am not fronting. Nope. All right, Coco, what you got on your feet? You look like you got on some heels with the
pink, I know, right? With the pearl
lipstick and the fuchsia.
Actually, I know I got on a little sweatsuit. It's a little sweatsuit. If you probably you can't see it, but I definitely got on a little sweatsuit. Yeah, but I do the pink with the green, the money green Air Max. What's this? A 97 or
97?
97s, baby. Can never go wrong with the 97. I like those.
So that's how I'm doing mine today.
Let's see if I can guess Jinx.
What?
He either has, because he know not to pull out those champion sneakers, so he has an Air Max something. It's a Nike,
and it's all white.
He should have stock in Nike as well.
See, I do have stock in Nike. That's why I asked you.
Very good. You need to hook me up.
So, but my brother was right, and these are definitely not 98s, 97s.
So I'm thinking she's talking about Coco.
97s. Can y'all?
Those are nice. I like the color,
see the scheme. Because if I was to stand up, you would see the writing on the side of the shirt. There's also a Nike shirt.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't play no games. We don't mix match brands. If you wear Nikes,
yeah,
I had to tell my daughter that.
Yeah, we don't do that.
could tell he's in Delaware because he got the fresh cut. I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna be back. I have yet to have a fresh cut on Root Access Live, but when I come, I'm coming with a vengeance, and I'm gonna just be like this the whole time. And I'm gonna just let y'all talk. I'm gonna just be like, "Oh, we talking?
We talking."
Well, I guess Thursday I'll be brand new. I got a hair appointment on Tuesday. Pennsylvania is open up, and my stylist is in Pennsylvania, so I'm excited about that.
There we go.
What do you guys think about everything opening up? Because I actually went to the beach on Tuesday, and it, I wasn't really nervous. I didn't know if it was gonna be a lot of people there, but it really wasn't. I mean, it was people there, but we were hundreds of feet away from the next group of people. It was nice weather. I mean, you just had to have a mask on going on to the beach, but other than that, it was cool. What do you guys think about that? Like beaches opening up, amusement parks, potentially opening up. And I heard that, I don't know how true this is, but I heard that King of Prussia Mall is open now. So, I mean, what do we say to that? Is it too premature?
Well, being in Delaware, our malls are open. So we've opened. We definitely have things in place where you have to wear a mask. Social distancing is still being preached, but we're open. It's. I think what happened is people just got tired of being in the house. People got tired of being stuck, and so it's like, look, let us do what we do, and if we deal with it, we deal with it. But and then there's a common theme that a lot of people don't feel that it was as bad as the media was trying to suggest. Because you have analysts who look at numbers, and if you're a numbers person, it doesn't go to diminish the individuals who have lost their lives, because lives are irreplaceable. You can't replace that, right? But if you look at the numbers, what people were saying was, you've got all these millions of cases in the country, but yet you had 100,000 deaths. And if you look at percentages, they're like the percentages are in our favor. And I can understand that, but I can also understand the other side too. But I just think that people are just like, you know what? Let's open back up. We've got more tests. We've got more things in place now to try to combat it. So I think they're just ready to go. I don't have a problem with it as long as we're still wearing our mask and we're still doing our due diligence.
No, okay. What about you, Coco?
I'm a little uneasy about it. I mean, I think people kind of forgot about the whole pandemic once the rioting started too. So, I'm still like, I think I'm just waiting for cases to rise. Not saying that I want it to rise, but, I think that we're not preventing it because we're distracted by other things. Now, you went to the beach the other day and I wanted to go so bad, but I thought about how the wind blows and people talking and they might not have their mask on and, spit is blowing or things are blowing. So I'm a little uneasy about the opening of certain things, and even with the safaris, I'm just not ready for everything to open back up. I mean, I know it's never going to return to normal, and maybe that's what I'm waiting for. And I know it's never going to happen, but I think we need a little bit more time, just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just a little nervous about because it's getting hot, it's getting warmer, and there are people out there who are saying, especially these younger kids, saying like, look, I'm living my life. We going out no matter what. However, people are still dying from coronavirus. Let's be clear.
Right.
So in the midst of all of this protesting,
people are carriers, and
people are carriers.
You might not be coughing, and you're around thousands of people and you're protesting. You may be a character. So like I said, I'm still a little uneasy. I'm waiting for this vaccination. Not sure what's taking them so long, but
I don't know. Well, if we go by what I think, this was Dr. Fauci who said this, and I want to be sure that I'm quoting the right person. So we'll fact check that. But I think it was Dr. Fauci who said that the coronavirus hates the heat. And so the heat is actually what's kind of working in our favor as it relates to the transmittal of the virus. It doesn't mean that we can go buck wild though, but I think that is a part of what we kind of got to understand too. Like, the heat is not a bad thing for us. The heat is actually a good thing for us.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. But then when flu season starts back up, then we'll have another strand of coronavirus or another strand of flu.
which is why they said in the fall that we should expect another spike. And I'm just like, man,
hopefully by then we should have some type of vaccination, right? Like, come on.
But even with that, like, are you running to the hospital to get that vaccination?
Nope.
Exactly.
No, absolutely not.
But we should I mean, if we're going to look at it from a standpoint of what we're prepared for then, as opposed to what we're prepared for now, I think that that's going to be a little bit easier to handle. I'm not saying that we're going to diminish the importance of being safe concerning the virus, but I think with the more time and the epidemiologists and the scientists and the doctors who are working to get a vaccination, hopefully by then we have something that's been released that's proven so that it'll help us. Because in the onset of it, there were some doctors who said that they treated it with something that was already on the market, which was erythromycin, which is known as a Z-Pack, and people were cured in 3 to 5 days. So,
yep.
So is this vaccination? Because last I heard, they were saying it won't be until another year and a half or 2 years before we get a vaccine. Is that still the case, or now will it speed up?
That's what I thought.
It was by the end of this year.
So maybe that's the song they're singing now.
Check that as well. That it's by the end of the year and I want to say it was Dr. Fauci as well who said that by the end of the year they should have a vaccination. So
listen, I don't want to do this. But the only thing I'll say is that when Dr. Fauci first came out talking about the virus, he said that we weren't going to be looking at opening schools in September. But like a couple weeks ago, I saw an article that said Dr. Fauci is saying that we really need to look at reopening schools in September. What's it going to be?
Either we are or we aren't.
Confident, right? Maybe he's confident that this vaccination will be either maybe he's giving us the grace period of end of the year, and maybe it'll be done sooner.
You feel like we're being played with a little bit?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I don't know. I'm just
looking for some kind of consistency.
Look, I'm just glad that we made it. We're still alive, because a lot of people did not make it, and that's just we can't take that for granted. Every day I wake up now, it's just like wow, man, I made it through coronavirus. Like, because for the month of April, bro, and sis, it was crazy, man. And in March, lost a lot of people, man, and it seems like with all that's going on now, just like the media does, it's like from one story to the next. And it's like, once it's that hot story, they stay on top of it. But now, with everything that's going on with the protests, we kind of seem to forget about, because it's not in our face. So people tend to forget. So as different states open up, in phases, we still have to be careful. That's why even on the radio, I'm letting people know every day, like, please still be cautious. Please social distance. Continue to wash your hands and all of that stuff. Don't get lax because it's not in our face on the news. So
that's right.
And people are either wearing the mask under the nose, and it's just a lot. Everybody is being lax, and like I said, we can't get distracted by what's going on outside. I mean, we have to pay attention to everything. And I know some of us haven't had a chance to even catch up on, like you said, a lot of us had deaths in our family due to coronavirus or whatever illness, or like my great grandmother, old age, where you're not even able to process all of the things that are going on at one time. But still try to be aware and be mindful of everything, try to be well balanced and well rounded in all aspects. I mean, we're being bombarded. I mean, you got a pandemic, we got protesting, we have racial.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a pandemic. It's a pandemic within a pandemic.
Yes.
Right. And it's been going on for a long time, but it's just out of control right now. And not once in my 38 years have I ever thought that I would go through anything like this. I can't wait to tell my grandkids and kids. Yeah, I really can. And I mean, I don't have, it's going to be a long ways, but I'm going to tell it like it is, and we're going to have a ball. I'm going to buy all the studies books and everything.
I thought 9/11 was something, just me living through that and literally being there while it happened and watching it in real time. And that was a doozy. But I
wish this wasn't a part of the history that we had to share.
Exactly.
I wish that I wish that this wasn't a part of what we had to share. Like my grandchildren are a long way away. At least they better be. My older son better not even think about.
Right.
But like when I think about my grandchildren, I don't want to have to tell them the story that there was more than just slavery. It's disheartening to think that we're going to have to tell them in the year of 2020 we dealt with something that was absolutely shattering to the African American community.
Yeah.
But what I hope and pray that we're able to tell them is that was the shift that opened America's eyes to the systematic injustices that have plagued us since our inception.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And only time will tell whether or not we can finish the story with the positive of the song that says we shall overcome. Only time will tell if we're able to actually say it was no longer that we shall overcome, but we did overcome.
We did.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
That's the part I want to be able to tell, the part where we prevailed. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I agree, man. I agree.
Thanks, Miss Griffin. She said, "Welcome back, Co." That's your mother.
Oh, look, you were missed, Coco.
Oh, they love you on. They just don't love you. They love Vini at WIMG, and they love us here. You just a little crutch.
No love. I guess no
You
love.
get no love.
It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's okay. I'm used to it. But I will say this.
Oh, you gotta put your pinky up. If that's Perrier, you got drink that with your pinky up. Put the pinky up.
Yeah, because with this little purified water, I can't do nothing.
Nah, you don't do that.
I don't do that. But that you gotta have the pinky out.
Oh yeah. But a lot happened since I was gone, y'all. I also joined a page. I don't know if a lot of people I'm following the comments and I'm looking, but not sure everybody's from New Jersey. But there's a new page. It's called Black Owned New Jersey. So I've been supporting that for a couple of days. I even wrote a little excerpt on there, saying that advertising our show every Thursday evening, trying to give us some exposure, and also I wanted to get some apparel. I'm trying to change my background here, guys. We need some help over here. It's a little black, and my grandmother hates it. And throughout the time, your duration with me, you will hear me talk about my mom. My mom is my biggest fan. She is the reason that I'm here today. I love
Does she have a Facebook page like my grandmother? Because my grandmother's watching from her Facebook page.
She does have a Facebook page.
She watches us.
My grandmother, she has seen us. That's how she knows my background is all black. But she doesn't avidly watch us. So she doesn't like post or anything on Facebook, but she'll like a post every now and again. But she listens to me every show I have on WIMG, everything. So
all right, I have a little fun fact for you guys who are watching. I think this is week number 6 for us, I believe.
Okay.
I think it's week number 6. And what you guys don't know is we were originally supposed to start this show, in a studio together, but the pandemic happened, and Jinx and Coco have yet to meet in person.
Yep.
How crazy is that? They have yet to meet in person. I don't think I've seen Jinx since last year sometime. And of course, I see Coco quite a bit. But yeah, they've never met in person.
Nope,
so
never met
clap it up for them, because I think the synergy, and you guys can let us know that the energy is that, like, we've all known each other for a long time. But yeah, they've never met in person.
And I love this.
What up, Coco?
Coco, what up?
Coco Gamble.
Come on.
What's up?
In the building. Thanks for watching, sis.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I look forward to the time where we can get into a studio and do this and be together. But I think, everybody's just making the best of their time during this pandemic. And I think that's pretty dope. I'm seeing a lot of people just kind of grow their brand, grow their business. That's one thing about us. We're resilient people. And we're gonna make it do what it do regardless, man. None of this stuff can hold us down because we got God on our side. So
Absolutely.
Now,
there
you
you
know
have
what?
it.
I think this actually is a blessing for a lot of us, those who did get creative. And for those of us who did not get creative or start a new business for making $1 million, I think I might have mentioned this before. Don't be down on yourself.
Don't.
Hopefully you took this time to pray and heal yourself and get yourself together for the next step. So,
Absolutely.
it's just a blessing that some of us were able to do this. And I didn't think it was going to happen at all. Like you said, we were supposed to meet in the studio. I'm like, oh, this is canceled. We ain't doing nothing. I got some time to chill, and here it is.
Yeah,
Look.
That's it.
I
So
was thinking that too. I saw so many. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say our guest just arrived.
Yep.
So Root, if you want to introduce our guest, we're getting ready to bring him
This
on. And
this is my guy. Like, I think because we're friends, I forget all the things that he's done and that he's really like a rock star. I believe he started his professional career with AOL Black Voices. That's when I got to know him. And the Tom Joyner Morning Show, of course, Court TV, HLN, the Travel Channel, Life After. You see him on Unsung, the Wendy Williams Show, The View, which Barbara Walters, by the way, looked him in the face and was just like, "Wow, I love your way with words." And
wasn't that something?
She was like loving on John, like for real. I think she wanted to kiss him. I think she
I
wanted
was
to kiss him.
giving her some.
I'm just,
Y'all know what Barbara Walters is worth?
hello.
Right.
Hello.
She the
Come
only
on,
one
somebody.
endo time like once a week.
Let me finish my intro.
Oh, my bad.
Brand ambassador for Nissan, and he's a bona fide church boy. He loves church. He loves God. And man, he's a friend of mine, near and dear friend of mine. He's the type of person that I've learned. John looks out for you, and you don't even know it. And he's done that for me more than one time, where they do stuff that you don't even know. You know how people brag. He's not that guy, and he's my friend. And welcome to Root Access Live, my brother John Murray.
Hey.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Welcome. Nice to meet
Y'all
you,
need like one of
sir.
those applaud buttons, the fake in studio applause.
Oh,
You gotta get that.
man, I had one somewhere. I do
You gotta
have
play
one.
it, Cole.
That's it,
You gotta get
Coco.
that.
When
And
I get it,
shout out to the other Coco. I see she's watching. That's dope stuff.
That's
Yeah.
my sister right there.
That's my best friend in real life. Like when I was an intern in this business, working at a radio station in DC, she was the first celebrity that I met, and I walked up to her and told her that she looked like a gospel singer. I won't say the singer's name, and she was like, "No, I don't." And ever
That's
since
Coco.
then, she took a liking to me.
Look.
When I was just a college kid, she would call me in the dorm. We would talk. When she come to DC, we'd hang out, and like I love her to life. Like that's my people, and that's literally my day one. So
That's dope. That's dope. Coco.
Definitely
Yeah,
good
she's
people.
cool people.
We had the pleasure of having her on a couple of weeks ago. We enjoyed her so much.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, John, man, we're gonna get right to it because typically when we have guests on, we interview them. But you, man, there's so much going on in the world. We kind of wanted to just build and talk with you about everything that's going on in the world, in the entertainment world, and of course with everything that's going on with the George Floyd murder, because that's what it was, and beyond that. So I guess we'll kick it off with the Democrats unveiled new legislation to overhaul U.S. police policy and add accountability with the Justice and Policing Act. I find this fascinating. The bill would ban chokeholds, create misconduct registry, and mandate training against racial profiling, amongst other changes. What do you think about this bill? Is it like too late, or were you just as surprised as I was that this is even a thing and a bill that needs to be passed?
You know what? I think when we have moments like this where you see bills like this pass and you say, wait, that wasn't passed. Like, there was just an anti-lynching bill passed in the Senate recently that was already approved in the Congress. And you say, wait, that wasn't passed. So often you have people ask, why do I have to vote? Does my vote count? Why is voting important? Well, the reason voting is important is because the voting body of the Congress and the Senate, if you want them to reflect your interests and do things that directly impact your community, then you have to vote politicians in, congressmen and senators in, even local officials in your local cities and your regions and things like that, that reflect your interests. And so, you know, for so many years, our Congress and our Senate has been completely monopolized by Republicans, and Republicans who come from districts that represent the type of people that ushered in the era of Donald Trump. And so our Congress being led by Democrats this year has helped block a lot of things that Donald Trump has done, but it's also helped usher some things in that are directly beneficial to people of color. And so when, you know, I often cringe when I see people say things where, what did Barack Obama do for black people? And what did Barack Obama do for people of color? Well, he tried to do a lot of things, but if you don't understand the political system, then you don't recognize that just because he puts a bill up or he puts something up, it will not live in the Congress or the Senate. And Mitch McConnell said on day one of the Obama presidency, I plan to stop everything he does. Everything. So the fact that the Senate was red, the fact that the Congress was red, and the fact that he was still able to overcome and achieve as much as he did, he was fighting against adversity. So the police bill that you're talking about, yes, it should have been done. But the reality is that it could have been done prior to Obama. It could have been done prior to the son Bush when we had Clinton. But the reality is that that would have been like almost 22 years ago. And the truth is, we haven't had a primarily Democratic Congress and Senate for a long time. These type of issues are why everyone, one, should be registered to vote. In this particular climate of voter suppression, and when people are trying to stop you from voting, you should try to early vote, order your ballot, mail your ballot. That's why Donald Trump does not want to fund the post office system in this country. But that, what you just asked me, the best answer I have for that is, that's why voting matters. If we can get people in the Congress and the Senate that reflect our issues, then we can get bills like this passed so that our kids and our grandkids and our great-great-grandkids aren't looking at us like, well, what were y'all doing? Why didn't this happen in your generation?
That is such a great point. I think Common said something today. I saw it on Instagram. He said, you want to know how important your vote is? Then ask yourself why they always try to stop it. Like when people talk about their voting doesn't matter or my one vote doesn't change, you got to understand, first of all, it is something that our forefathers fought for. And if anybody doesn't understand that movement and anyone doesn't understand what took place, I think one of the best things you can do is tonight after we get off, don't leave us, but after we get off, go watch the movie Selma and get an understanding of what really went in to the African-American being able to vote. Like you've got to really pay attention to that. And if for nothing else, you should want to do it because our forefathers fought for it. But then on the other side, if you really want to see change, because I think one of my biggest problems is many of the people who talk about change do nothing to change anything. So you have the biggest mouth about what's going on, but you haven't exercised your constitutional right to do anything about it. And so I really think that's important, John. I can't agree with you more. Primaries, get out and voting on your. I know here in Delaware, our primary is July 7th. It is very important that we get out and vote because I don't want to hear your mouth if you're talking about things you don't like if you didn't vote.
Exactly.
If you protested, if you took a photo at a protest and posted it on social media, we are glad that you exercised your First Amendment right to peaceful protest. However, you can't protest and you can't put your fist in the air and you can't share with the world that you out here protesting and marching and all this stuff if you don't march your tail to the polls. There was a young man that approached. I was in the airport with Roland Martin. We're both here in DC, so we often end up either on the same flight or running into the airport at the same time. And so we were both at the baggage claim. We were catching up. And this young brother walked up because he was really upset because Roland Martin had used some very choice words to describe black people who don't vote. And so he wanted to ask him if he really meant what he said or if he was just playing to the camera. And Roland was like, no, I meant everything I said. So we began to dialogue with the brother a little bit. And I said something to him that just kind of came to me in the moment. And he was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. But in the 2016 election, Colin Kaepernick did not vote. He reserved his right to vote and made that a public thing, which means that other people that were influenced by him also did not vote. There were other people like Killer Mike and other guys who they've had an about face and they understand the error of their ways now, but they also reserved their right to vote, because a lot of them bought into what I believe was Russian propaganda about Hillary Clinton. And because they
Absolutely.
couldn't get Bernie Sanders or the candidate of their choice,
Absolutely.
they didn't think about the greater good or the greater community. They were in their
Correct.
feelings and chose not to vote. Well, Colin Kaepernick choosing not to vote allowed Donald Trump. He contributed to Donald Trump being election. Donald Trump is the man who turned the entire NFL against him. So his not voting
Wow.
contributed to his own demise and his inability to work in the NFL.
Wow, I never
And
thought
so,
about it that way, but it's true.
And so while I stand with him and I believe he should work in the NFL and they owe him a apology and a job and a contract and all of that stuff, I also hope
and back pay.
But while we're advocating for him, I hope he now acknowledges the error of his ways, realizes that voting truly matters, and what voting doesn't, when you don't vote, how it also matters, and he tells people to go out and vote. Because we can't rock with you to get your job, and you don't rock with us and tell everybody else to get to the polls.
Exactly.
And his platform now is bigger than it was then. So now, if he does have an about face, that would be more, substantial. Now, I believe he can change it, and I believe if he does that, that would be amazing for us.
Absolutely. We've seen so many of these murders happen, and especially now with social media. I mean, we've seen Philando Castile, we've seen Eric Garner, the Mike Brown. It's countless. What makes the George Floyd murder so different, and why do you think people now, you have more protests than ever before? You have companies that are basically, standing with Black Lives Matter. What's the difference now than in times past?
I think there are a lot of factors that contributed to the movement that we're seeing now. One, I think a lot of people were home. They weren't distracted by work and sports and all the other things, picking your child up from school. People were actually sitting at home, and their social media timelines were flooded with this man being murdered by a police officer. So the video had the attention of the world because we're in this pandemic, and people, for the most part, at least the responsible ones, were being pretty stationary to protect their health. So I think that was a major factor in this thing. I think the other factor is, just like with every other community, having its day of reckoning. I mean, over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been seeing the Me Too movement happen, and women who have been victims of sexual misconduct, sexual assault, and rape are having their day of reckoning. We've seen men who were controlling this industry, who were at the heads of companies and big power players in every facet of this industry, lose their jobs and be forced into retirement based off of the misconduct that they've done in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, just last year. And so Black people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And this particular time, more than anything, I think folks were paying attention. Our allies were forced to look at the things that we have been saying. It's one thing when you read a story about somebody, then they can go to those old cliche lines. Well, if you raise your kids to be better citizens, or, well, what did the person do? I mean, when you look at what happened with Ahmaud Arbery and how they tried to say, oh, well, he was going into this house, and then the homeowner released the video and said, no, it's standard practice. People run through and check out the structure of my house under construction all the time. So this time around, people had to see it. It was there in front of them. They had to face it, and it really hit at the core of a lot of people's consciousness. I used to say to people, I was very vocally critical of people like that charlatan Paula White, and people like Hassan, what's that CCM singer, Vicky Yohe.
Vicky Yohe.
Where she was kind of gospel,
Yes.
She was just benefiting people like that, who have benefited from our communities and made money and our Black churches and things like that. When the moment of Trump was having, they showed a lot of us what they really thought of us, because they were siding with him because they saw the benefits and what he could do for them. Well, folks like that used to also work through their ancestors' slave guilt by taking missionary trips to Africa and adopting little African kids. So you don't care about the Black boy in America that got shot down by the cop, or you don't care about the Black boys in America that are facing injustice, or the Black women in America that are facing injustice with the police and other systematic racism. But you work through your guilt by taking these missionary trips to go feed babies in Africa and bringing them back home and raising them instead. No, that's not how you work through your guilt. You work through your guilt by not only acknowledging the things that your ancestors did, that your oppressors did, that these people who fought in the civil rights did, the Civil War did, but now you face your black friends, your black neighbors,
Right.
the black coworker, all the people that you had dismissed and antagonized and thought that we were just using race and racism as a tool of weaponization. No, now you realize this thing is real. You apologize, you atone. We still ain't letting Paula White and Vicky Yohe them back in our black churches, but at the end of the day, at least do something to fix the wrongs that you've done.
Right.
Yeah,
And again,
absolutely.
to piggyback off of that, I just think enough became enough and we had the time. Now we got time. Like you said, we sitting home and we can see this. We got time now. So, let's get this thing done. And
Yeah, man.
now is a better time than any time
Absolutely.
to get it done.
Absolutely.
And
John,
I always say we use this platform to promote voting. So if anybody on here, anybody knows anybody who needs voter registration forms, tell them to come see me because I definitely have them.
Come and then
Coco
use
got
your
the hookup.
Google. Black people will use Google for everything. You want to find a
Exactly.
barber? Google. You in a city and you need a makeup artist? Google. You need to
That's
find
right.
some place where they got crab legs or soul food? Google. Well, Google, how can I register to vote? Like, if
Right.
black people would just learn to use their Google. If people text me all the time these crazy memes or these links to these conspiracy theory websites. They're like, you think this is true? And I tell them, just Google it. If you just Google the first few
Google is
lines
your
in the
friend.
title, you'll see the stuff is debunked and not true. So Google. Whatever you need in
Google.
life, Google's your friend.
That's true. That's true. Another hot button case, John, is this Breonna Taylor case, which I don't know why things surprise me anymore, but it's just like you go into this woman's house, you shoot her 8 times, you shoot 22 shots. The boyfriend shoots back. They bring him in because it's just like, oh no, you don't shoot back at the cops who are plainclothes, like he's supposed to know that. He has a registered gun. And then how these cops are not immediately arrested because they made a mistake. Oops. But it's just like a oops. And now today they're saying one of the cops who applied for this no knock warrant or whatever is actually reassigned. So they're all still getting paid. And now he's been reassigned, on duty. I mean, what do we say to these things? How is it that these cops are not locked up for making this mistake? Because it was a mistake. That's what they say in air quotes.
Wait, John, before you answer that, did y'all see the police report that came out about that today too? That when it listed her injuries, it actually said none. What?
It's unbelievable, man.
And it's been
Kentucky.
90-something days. It's been 90-something days.
Yeah.
It's in Kentucky, home of Mitch McConnell, who's the head of the Senate. And I don't want to start sounding redundant. Like this broadcast isn't sponsored by our voter registration drive. But the reality is that, like, if there was different leadership in Kentucky, even with a bad police chief and things like that, if you had a congressman or a senator, people who were concerned about people of color, they could bring in outside people like the governor of Minnesota did in Minneapolis with George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
He brought in an outside district attorney to oversee that stuff.
Right.
Like, we have to make sure, I've been to Louisville and I've been to a few other places in Kentucky. And even though Kentucky is considered a red state, there's a whole lot of people of color there. So it's time for us to show up and show out. And just like Snoop Dogg said, a lot of people have been conditioned to think that their criminal past and other things that they've gone through in the past prevent them from vote. There are lots of people who are afraid to vote because you think you won't have to pay your child support or they're going to come. Listen, figure out what laws apply to you. Go vote and get these people out of office, because we have to get district attorneys and congressmen and senators who will step in and intercede when racism is prevalent in these places. Now, the challenge is that, I work in mainstream entertainment and you have to be careful about some of the things you say. But it would be really problematic for me if Breonna Taylor was my relative right now, because I would probably have to call a meeting of some of my less dignified cousins. And if we couldn't get legitimate justice by going through the system, then, we might have to take a more biblical route to exploring how to have.
Don't say eye for an eye.
Maybe 7 for 1. this is one of mine, 7 of yours
Right.
gotta go. I don't know. All I'm
Right,
saying
right.
is that you know, we can try this thing the right. If this was my family member, I would try it my best the right way. But if we didn't get the justice that we deserve, then nobody else would be sleeping at night either.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And you bring up a good point because as much as we saw what happened to George Floyd and it was horrific. I often feel bad for the others who names we will never know
Never know.
who died the same way. You know what I'm saying? But it's
Yeah.
just been swept under the rug because of the police system in that city.
Right.
So I'm just hoping that some change will come out of this. I think about if these cops are not convicted, you think America is in an uproar now is going to be crazy. So, as much
Yeah,
as I want to have faith.
and keep protesting, keep marching. Like 14 days of protest. Let me tell you, in 1968, after Martin Luther King was assassinated, um, it took 6 days. There had been a civil rights bill that was just sitting around that they were waiting to get signed and had been passed around through the Congress and the Senate. 6 days of protesting, rioting, and looting, and finally they got that bill signed. So, sometimes you got to shake America at its infrastructure and its core. When a lot of the rioting and the protests initially start happening, I was a bit uncomfortable because I was nervous about how the mainstream media would conflate the messages and they would take away the fact that the peaceful protests were happening and was achieving goals, but only focus on the rioting and the looting. But the truth is, rioting and looting is supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you feel uneasy because the truth of the matter is that sometimes America needs to feel uneasy for change to happen. When we talk about the Boston Tea Party, they rioted there. Like that whole situation was a very similar situation, and we call those people patriots.
And
so
heroes,
the folks
right.
that are out here rioting and
That's
looting and doing what they are doing to make sure that Black Lives Matter, this is our time of reckoning, and they too are patriots. And yeah, there have been some fringe groups and some riffraff that has infiltrated our marches and our protests and things like that. And and for that, hey, with all the good that we're doing, you're gonna have some bad. But the greater good is being accomplished, and folks are finally hearing and recognizing the error of their ways.
I mean, when have you ever heard of all of these companies that are run by rich Caucasian people standing for African American rights? Like, you've never heard this before. You
never heard it.
It is like it's happening like every day. Somebody else is coming out saying we stand for, and then you do have the outliers like Starbucks. Starbucks is saying, look, I don't care. It doesn't matter if anybody wears anything that's in Black Lives Matter, anything with Black lives, you're going to be, put out the store. They're talking to their employees. I get it. Like, there are going to be some people who just don't get with the program. But as you said,
Jinx,
John,
I bet you money. What's today? Thursday? Because being in the house, you start forgetting these days.
Hello.
Right.
Between now and early next week, you mark my words, Starbucks is going to do backflips.
They're gonna retract.
Yeah,
they're
gonna retract
back.
They are,
because while they say that they didn't want anything that was political, religious, and there was a third term that they used because they're trying to protect and not customers but employees from violence or repercussions and things like that. They have encouraged their employees to be able to wear buttons and things in support of marriage equality and the LGBT community.
Correct.
And have also passed out literature and things like that. So my whole thing is I am all for everybody's equality. Hassan knows this more than anybody. I believe that equal rights are civil rights for every American on this planet. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If I can put on a rainbow flag button, I can put on a Black Lives Matter button.
That's right.
I can put on a pro-Muslim button. Whatever marginalized group or disenfranchised people, whether it's Me Too on down, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And Starbucks is going to have to fix that.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
They want to give out apologies because they want to give out apologies because you got to hit them where it hurts, and if we don't spend our money, then it's going to hurt them. And we're the ones who are buying the coffee in the morning.
And it's nasty.
The way those protesters are shutting down, the way those protesters are shutting down Seattle, the home of Starbucks. Starbucks is the last place in the last city where they want to upset some folks that's going to protest. Starbucks will get burned to the ground if they end up on the wrong side of this thing.
Yeah.
And I participated in Blackout Tuesday. I took my money to Lowe's instead of Home Depot this past week as well, because
We
I don't
got to
want
be
to spend my
responsible
money.
with our black dollars,
Mhm.
and we also
Exactly.
Roland Martin made a point. He was on ABC News, and it really struck with me because it reminded me of some instances I've seen from a front row seat in this business. And money and corporations talk. The short version of the story that he told was there was like a big Martin Luther King celebration event that was supposed to take place in Georgia years ago. And some of the elected officials at the time was trying to stop this event from happening. And it was the president of Coca-Cola at the time who said, if y'all don't get behind this event and allow this event to happen, not only will we not support any of your initiatives, I'm going to move Coca-Cola from Georgia and take it to another state, and I will permanently affect the economy of this state by moving Georgia out of moving Coca-Cola out of Georgia as its headquarters.
Out of Georgia.
And all of a sudden, the legislation was signed. The MLK event was happening. It was business as usual. If corporations would step up and say,
Yes.
we won't allow this to happen in our city. We won't allow police to kill unarmed black people. We want legislation. If they could lobby for human rights like they lobby for their business rights, then it will move the needle in this company. So we're glad for your memes. We're glad for your statements. We're glad that you say that you're standing with us, but don't just write a check to the NAACP and the high-end celebrity civil rights organizations, but also use your voice and your influences in these communities where you hire people and you employ and you contribute to the economy to tell these local legislators what you won't do if they don't change their law.
That's where it's got to be.
Exactly.
That's where it's got to be.
Exactly.
I was at a press release yesterday here in Delaware with the National Black Caucus and the NAACP. We're working together to get some legislations passed. And one of the things that I noticed is there was not a lot of talks about how we're going to help the marginalized and disenfranchised groups of people. Now, we did talk about how we're going to disband chokeholds, and we talked about all the police officers now having body cameras, and we talked about how there's going to be an oversight committee, and we talked about a whole bunch of things, but we didn't talk about reallocating funds. And when you're talking about that, you must now talk about money. You have to.
Right.
And to your point, John, I don't think that there are enough individuals who are influencers who have the guts or the mitigated gall to say, you know what, I'm going to take a stand, not just in word, but in deed.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's right. And I think this is the perfect segue because just today, the CEO of Nike, John Donahoe, he expanded on the brand's plans to get its own house in order when he deemed Juneteenth a national holiday for Nike. So starting this year, every year, June 19th will be a paid holiday for all of its employees. I thought that was, revolutionary, especially for a company like Nike, to come out and say that this is important to our employees. What do you say to that, John?
I like Nike. I think Nike has shown that they have been an ally of the African American, the Black community, just particularly about how hard they rode with Colin Kaepernick after the whole situation from the NFL. I mean, they did a very lucrative deal with him that will probably sustain him far beyond his work in the NFL. And so I respect Nike for being bold in their decision making. I wish somebody at Nike would have had the wherewithal to have not released new Jordans in the middle of a pandemic so that some of our less responsible cousins in them, like the ones in Atlanta, wouldn't have been lined up and putting their health at risk to just go get some new Jordans. But beyond that, I think Nike typically gets it right. They're always on the right side of this, and they don't mind getting backlash from racist, bigoted people in an effort to make sure that history views them through the proper lens.
Yeah,
I hope, and before you came on, John, I was talking to Root because I have stock in Nike, right? I have stock in Nike, and it is something that I do, and I just hope that they're doing all of this for the right reasons. I hope that it's not because the African American community spends a whole bunch of dollars with them and they don't want to lose those dollars. I hope that it is really because they see that things need to be adjusted.
But you know what, Jinx?
Well,
I wouldn't have a problem if part of the reason that they're doing it is because we spend so much money. Because the truth is, there have been brands historically that have taken our money for granted. You know, I did a conversation with Luster S. Curl
Okay.
on this maybe about a week ago, and I was really surprised they wanted to have such a provocative conversation about the climate going on in the country, because a lot of brands, like, they posted their statements, but they really didn't want to have dialogue about this. Contributing to race conversations and talking about protests and disenfranchised groups really isn't what's best for business. You know what I'm saying? And there were, I think at one point when Nike came out and supported Colin Kaepernick, like, they were trending News audience, and all those white bigots and things like that were criticizing them for standing with him. And so it isn't necessarily that advantageous for business, the overall impression of business, to sometimes be on the right side of this. But if you value my black dollars enough to say that even though you might not be the majority in America, you're, as a consumer, the trillions of dollars that you guys spend and buying things here in America, I honored it enough that I still want to be on the right side of history. Even if it is just because of the money that we spend, we need to have more people respect us for the money that we spend, because we don't get enough respect for that.
You're right. Absolutely.
Right.
You're right.
Black
And
lives matters just as well as black dollars matter.
You're talking good, Coco.
It's the truth, man. And of course, you know, ironically enough, Juneteenth, Nike's respecting it. But I'll just call him 45.
The
45, just say 45.
He's facing backlash from African American community leaders due to a Tulsa rally taking place on Juneteenth. Is that a coincidence?
Come on.
Or is that on purpose, John Murray?
It's actually intentional. So shout out to my good friend April Ryan. She broke a story earlier this week that Stephen Miller, who is a white nationalist, in December 2019, CNN did a story where they interviewed someone who was once associated with him, and she said Stephen Miller is a white supremacist, and I know because I was one and he taught me how to be one. And she's no longer a white supremacist. She's been delivered from her wicked ways, and trying to help other white supremacists coming to the multicultural light. But not only is Trump planning on having this, it's called a race relations speech in Tulsa on Juneteenth, but Stephen Miller is the one writing the speech. So this is the type of story that, like, you would see in a TV drama. Like, this really reads like something that'd be happening on an episode of Scandal. Unfortunately, this is the life that we're really living out. And so there's that the guy who's supposed to be a preacher, Daryl Scott, who works with the administration
from South Carolina.
No. That one don't even really have a church. They say he was just broadcasting from like a camera in his basement. But no, it's the one that looks like the adult film star Brian Pumper, who has the church. I think it's like in Cleveland, Ohio, somewhere.
Oh wow!
I'm so done.
He's the one who is leading
the adult film star Brian Pumper, who has the church. I think it's like in
to
Cleveland,
help
Ohio.
find a good civil rights backdrop and all that type of stuff. So it's been it's a crazy story. You know, as one that I'm kind of speechless about. And if they really go through with this, I think this will be further detrimental to the image that people have of this clown. I'm talking about the one leading the country now. The one who looks out of his window onto Black Lives Matter Plaza, and here in DC.
I know that's
right. And again, just one more reason why people need to vote. Listen, I was of the mindset that I didn't care if the Democrats put up Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Daffy, Goofy. They could have put a potted plant up to run for president of the United States. I mean, the potted plant would have done a much better job than what we have now. But
the potted plant.
I'm excited about Joe Biden because I know that not only does he understand how government works, but he's somebody who has worked with people on both sides of the aisle, which is why Colin Powell, which is why George Bush and so many other traditional Republicans, people we might not necessarily completely align with on policy, but we never thought that they were completely racist or just wanting the detriment of us as a race. And so I'm excited for him picking a woman as his vice president. I think that by the time November comes, people, I hope this energy of folks being sick and tired carries on, and that we can overload this country with votes so that not even if Russia tries to infiltrate our election system again, we can beat this man by numbers that he's never seen in his life.
Yeah,
I
man.
agree.
That's what it
One
is.
of
We
the
need to beat
things
him by
about Joe
numbers. We
Biden.
need to show up and show out.
Yeah, go ahead, Cole.
Absolutely.
No, go ahead. I just said we need to show up and show out.
Yeah,
that's
I
for real,
agree.
man.
I think the reason, to going back to your point, John, of why we have seen people on the other side or from the Republican Party, I don't want to say that they'll endorse Joe Biden, but they'll lean more towards him because I think that there's an integrity of the office that has been disseminated. I mean, if you look at what Donald Trump has done, the office of the president of the United States no longer has the integrity that it once had. And I don't think that for people on the Republican side, even though they may not agree with the legislation that the Democrats may want to put forth, I think that they will agree and even kind of push for the integrity of the office to be reestablished. And that's important because we look like fools to other countries because of this. It's
Absolutely.
ridiculous. We have no integrity, and I don't care what side of the coin you're on. Integrity is so important when you're talking about leadership. And this is yeah.
I mean, the big scandal over Obama was that he wore a tan suit.
A tan suit.
Like,
a tan suit. Can you imagine?
Suit, right.
I mean, there were
and
Republicans
Jeremiah
that
Wright was his pastor
over this good Zara suit, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And how far did you have to dig to get that out?
Yeah.
That ain't
he
enough
walked
dirt.
out. And Jeremiah Wright was his pastor. Remember, that was the first big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, Jeremiah Wright should be, Secretary of State. You know?
Hello. Seriously. All right, John, this is the part of the show. We got about 2 more topics to cover. But we kind of break up the monotony in a fun game called Talk It, Sing It. So, typically, we sing songs because we hear it, we hear the melody, we hear the beat. But sometimes when you just hear the lyrics to a song, you just like, I know that song, but I don't know what it is. So I'm gonna talk the lyrics, and then either you can sing it back to me if you know it, or tell me the name of the song and the artist.
Okay.
Got it? Okay. All right, so the first song. All right, hold up. Let's take it to the top. Fox gets my swerve on, floss pure rocks. In the 6 drop, boo, and it don't stop. See money looking all right. Yeah, what's up, Pop? Cross the room throwing signals, I'm throwing them back. Flirting cause I did you like that. Pete baby boy style, hoping we match. You sent me Crown Royal with a note attached.
What's this? It's something from the Little Kim repertoire. What is going on here?
Very close. I'm gonna say the rest of this verse.
Okay, give me one more verse.
It said, "You look like that type now. What you like? I could tell by the jewels you got for the ice. Plus, you were the shoes well. The suits flow nice. I don't like the notes too well. Let's be more precise. Meet me by the VIP. Let's powwow. Whisper in my ear like boo. Let's bounce now."
Come on, John.
You almost to the hook now.
Hearing, and Coco from SWV says she know it. She probably was featured on this daggone album.
I know, right?
But it's interesting, like hearing lyrics without the music. And
I know.
So okay, it's Little Kim adjacent, huh?
Yeah, it's Little Kim adjacent.
Yeah.
Yes. You want to tell you, or you want me to?
Just go ahead and tell me.
It's Foxy Brown and Blackstreet. Get me home.
Oh, Foxy Brown and
Gotta
Blackstreet.
get you home with me tonight.
That was the original Blackstreet too. That's when they had all the original members.
All right, I got one. I got another one. All right. Share my life.
That's Mary J. Blige.
Nope.
Oh.
Oops. Share my life. Take me for what I am. Because I'll never change all my colors for you. Take my love. I'll never ask for too much. just all that you are and everything you do. I don't really need to look very much further. I don't want to have to go where you don't follow. I'll hold it back again. The passion inside. Can't run from myself. There's nowhere to hide. Now, I ain't going no further.
Oh, that's Whitney Houston.
I was getting ready to say, good gosh.
Don't
Right,
let
right,
me
right.
hold one more door.
Yeah,
I
there
won't
we go.
cry anymore.
There you go.
I have nothing. Nothing.
You gonna preach tonight?
Nothing. All right, I got one more.
All right.
All right. Come take my hand. I won't let you go. I'll be your friend. I will love you so deeply. I will be the one to kiss you at night. I will love you until the end of time.
I need
I'll be
another
your baby.
verse.
I'll be your baby. Now promise not to let you go. Love you like crazy. Now say you never let me go. Say you never let me go. Say you'll never let me go. Take you away from here. You know it, right?
I don't think I know this one.
You don't think you do? Take you away from here. It's nothing between us but space and time. Somebody in the comments said that's easy.
Oh, really?
Nah, they were talking about the last one, I think.
Oh, they're talking about the last one?
Yeah.
I'll be your own little star. Let me shine you up. Or your own little universe and make you girl. All right. Maybe that was a little hard.
Who is that?
It's Beyonce, End of Time.
Yo,
love you like crazy. Say you'll never let me go. Say you'll never let me go.
Oh, yeah, I would have never guessed that.
You got that one?
You'd have given me something from the Destiny's Child repertoire. I'd have been all with you.
There
if you
you
had
go.
say my name, say my
name
when no one else is around you, say baby, I love you.
Are we gonna ignore the fact that she about to be an actress? Are we just gonna skip over that? Okay, never mind.
Who?
About to be Beyonce.
Well, when I say about to be, because
that's in our topics. That's the final two stories.
Oh,
all right, I'm gonna give you one more song, John. One more song.
Oh, it is?
This is hard.
John, you better know this one.
Oh Lord. Won't ye make you?
Hey,
okay, my bad.
That's too easy. All right. So many times I failed them. I done things my own way. I fell down so low, y'all. I thought I'd never see the light of day. But then he took me by my hand and enabled me to stand.
You know this.
I'm so glad he gave me one more chance.
There we go.
He gave me
one more chance.
Shout out to Lillian Lloyd because her birthday was yesterday.
Was it?
Happy birthday.
I love me some Lillian Lloyd. Happy birthday.
Listen,
Lillian.
There's nobody better than, let me tell you, certain artists and certain people can take you to your happy place. So there's nothing like being in a good situation where the Ricky Dillard and New G is on stage and it's the end of their concert and Ricky turns to the side and says, Lillian's coming. I already know I'm about to have a good time.
The joy.
Her ad-libs and her antics and the theatrics, and it's just I'm gonna be so full when I leave that it's just like eating candy.
Yeah. I've been to a couple of concerts with John and Ricky Dillard to get on stage and he's like up on the stage. He's like, I love this kind of carry it on.
That's my kind of carrying on. and then it's all and I just stand there and I wait until he says Lillian's coming. It's about to go out with a bang.
It's the best. That's what I miss, man. We have no concerts lately. This is crazy. John, what are you doing in your down? Because you travel. I mean, I travel, but you really travel a lot. And what have you been doing?
I've enjoyed this time. And it's not popular to say, but I do maybe 75,000 frequent flyer miles a year. The top of the year, I already had done 35,000 frequent flyer miles a year. Like my last trip, I think we stopped. I came home March the 15th. I think that was the weekend I shut it down. I flew back in from LA. My mom is here with me. So one of the things that I recognize is that later in life, I'm going to cherish being off the road for, I guess this is week 11, 12, maybe 13 now with her. I've been playing Chef Quarantine. I've been we've been painting around the crib. I've been getting stuff organized. I've been purging old things, like I'm walking like 4 and 5 miles a day. This has been the most peaceful, cathartic time, and I have not had that itch yet. Like, I need to be in the airport. I need to get on the plane. And when some people text me, be like, "Hey, I'm traveling," or "Hey, I'll be in your city," I'll be like, "Ooh, you on a plane?" Like, I mentally, I can't even wrap my head around that yet. But I've enjoyed this time of being still. Like, I had a whole lot of hosting and moderating gigs and things like that was on my slate, and I was up for a couple of TV projects and things. All of that stuff is gone, but I've had a peace about this whole time, man. My whole thing is I just want to come out of this thing healthy and a better human being when outside opens back up, and we have to adapt to whatever our new normal is.
And I will say this, everybody's wearing the mask and stuff now and the gloves. John Murray has been doing this for years, and we were all laughing at him. He's been doing it. He's
Jinx,
been
they were clowning me, Jinx. But I'm gonna tell you, I have to give credit to the lady in the comments, Coco from SWV. In 2009, we went to Japan. It was Coco, it was Shanice, and Nikki Gilbert from Brownstone. And Coco was sitting across the aisle from me on the plane. And once we got settled, they were about to take off. She pulled out this surgical mask and put it on. And I was like, "What are you doing with that Michael Jackson mask on?" And she was like, "You might call it a Michael Jackson mask, but I'm not going to have the sniffles when I get to Osaka." And literally, we got to Osaka, and I had the sniffles, and she didn't. And she was like, "The air on the plane is nasty, and I need to be able to sing these 10 shows on this tour that we going on. And I need to make sure I can breathe." And ever since then, I've been rocking masks on the planes. Naomi Campbell ain't the only one to get on the plane and wipe it down. Like, I should have stopped in wet wipes, because I used to wipe them planes down, and people would, look at me like, "Oh my God, he's like cleaning." Yep, you can call me to help if you want to, but I won't be sick. And so, I've been on this long before now, man, because people are dirty. And
they really are.
And I'm going to say something that it's not politically correct to say, but I've seen it and I experienced it, and I hope we can be better from it. But one of the things I noticed in my non-scientific survey traveling through airports is I think culturally, Black people are taught to wash their hands and other nationalities are not. And so I know,
I'm looking out the window
myself. This is my experience, and I'm not generalizing. I'm just saying my unscientific self-survey through being in airports myself realized that a lot of white men didn't wash their hands.
Yes.
And so now that we know that this particular virus has spread so much through coughing, through sneezing, and through surfaces in your hands and stuff, which is why they say wash your hands, I already was apprehensive about shaking certain people's hands. So now I think I'll be doing an elbow bump for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I will say that the airport, specifically in Atlanta, was extremely clean.
Good stuff. And that's a lot of people that come through this. It's hard to clean.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Well, but Jinx, you just came from Atlanta a couple weeks ago, and it probably was extra clean now because
extra clean. Listen, when I got on the plane, Delta handed me wet naps and a bag with food in it. It was, and I could smell the cleaning products.
Yeah.
What's the safest time now to fly?
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Probably is
a $50 ticket to the Maldives.
I'm telling you, I'll be looking at these flights like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, but even when I went to Alabama last week, they had Super Saver flights. They were really cheap, but I would have had to lay over in Denver for 18 hours. So
why did you need to go to Alabama last week?
Oh, shit!
I had to bury my 93-year-old great grandmother.
That was a good reason
not to coronavirus, but of old age.
We are not gonna let this go. We are not gonna do this tonight. Did y'all see he was ready to shut this show down?
Yeah, he was like, "What?" Alabama, all
to the camera.
Alabama. Why are you going to Alabama?
If you're gonna have to risk it and get on a flight in this season, tell me you would. I had to take this little business trip to Hawaii, but
right,
Alabama.
No, I wish that was the case. I was going on vacation, so even during the pandemic, I haven't been able to process that yet. And now with the death, I got to process that. So I wish I really wish I was going to Hawaii.
We had a loss in my family. My uncle, who had been also battling Parkinson's disease, made his transition about midway through this thing, and we had like a small social distance 10 family member funeral graveside. But I pretty much saw everybody else around me like, y'all better stay away from this virus because I ain't doing no funerals in this season.
No,
and and I watched George Floyd's service, and I know that there was a singer in Houston who passed, and they had a big celebration for her and stuff like that. But I love everybody in life. I try to celebrate everybody in life. But while we go through this pandemic, if the Lord calls you home, I'll be on your Zoom funeral because I just
you can't do it.
My nerves too bad. I just
people are
I would like to not be with y'all right now and be down at a protest. But while I want to march with my people, and I've been doing other things to support and sharing messaging and because I was woke before it was on trend, but I have a woman living with me who is 71 years old. Yes. And so I can't go march with my people and then march Corona back into my house. So, it's a conundrum. And I so respect the people who I seen on the news and say, this is worth the risk to me. Like, I'm willing to die for my people. And I'm like, God bless you. I stand with you. I support you. I'm not willing to have my mama die because I stand with my people. So,
Right.
I got you.
Got to use discernment in this case right now.
Yeah,
I totally
in
understand
all things
that.
we got to use wisdom, and I love my mama. If I had a bad mama, maybe I wouldn't mind. Like, leave mama. I'm going to the march, but leave your insurance policy out. Nah, but I love my mama, so I'm doing everything I can to ensure her health and her safety as well.
Sure.
Absolutely.
We got final two stories here. Beyonce is close to agreeing to $100 million deal with Disney on 3 projects. I mean, as if she doesn't have enough money. And when one of those projects include Black Panther 2. Man, what do you think about this? People are saying Meghan Markle was going to be pissed off because I think she was supposed to be the quote unquote queen of Disney when it came to voiceovers and doing different projects. So what do you think about this deal?
Well, this story originated in a British tabloid called The Sun a few weeks ago, and it's starting to pick up some traction over the last 2 days here in the U.S. So, one, I need to read about this in one of the Hollywood trades, like the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Variety. I need to read about it somewhere like that to make sure that it's a real story, because The Sun is in the business of using sensationalized aspects to sell papers. And I read The Sun, they're entertaining, but I have to consider the source here. Now, is Beyonce worth $100 million based on what they would like to do with her? Very possibly, because clearly they know the numbers that her original soundtrack for The Lion King did and the success that they have with The Lion King. So maybe they see the value in that. It'd be very interesting to see if she actually was involved in Black Panther 2, because I think that they had a very clear voice and sound that was a lot more hip hop oriented with the original soundtrack. And so I'd be shocked that they'd be veering away from that. If I'm not mistaken, Kendrick Lamar oversaw the first soundtrack for Black Panther. So do I think Disney wants to be deep in business with Beyonce? Probably. Do I think that the details and the nuances of this story are dead on? I'm not so sure. And I wish the British tabloids would leave Meghan Markle alone. They don't like her because she's Black. The only reason she gets bad press is because she's Black. The reason why her and her husband moved to Hollywood and said we tired of this life is because she's Black. BuzzFeed did a really good side-by-side story on like all the things Meghan Markle did and all the things Kate Middleton did, and how they describe Kate's positively and Meghan's negatively. They don't like her because she's Black, and Black lives matter even when you're a British royal.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Because if she was white, it would have been a revolutionary move. Like, oh my God, she took him out of the, of the castle with the queen. This is great because he loves his family. It would have been this big to do, but because she's Black,
and she got that boy sprung. Let them be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Last story. This was great. Talking about this in our meeting before the show. And I thought, when we hear about sports players, a lot of them they go broke, man, because they're buying all these cars and they had signed bad deals. But Allen Iverson is due to receive $32 million. He just turned 45, so and when he turns 55, he's due to get a $32 million trust from Reebok. And that was part of his contract. Plus, ever since this deal, I think, which was struck in 2001, he's been getting $800,000 a year. Let's talk about how just dope that is, and how other sports players can learn from that type of deal.
That deal is remarkable. And we just also have to give kudos to the NBA. I think the NBA is the sport. I mean, baseball makes the most money. Like if you're raising a kid and you want to put your kid in sport, have them swinging the bat because they can make a whole lot of money.
Yes.
But the NBA, those guys, like I so respect what guys like LeBron and Dwayne Wade did before he retired and things like that, where they took the game into their own hands. I remember when Dwayne and LeBron and Chris Bosh came together and people were mad saying, oh, they're playing just to win. Well, when you look at the NFL and how those guys have no control and what happened to Colin Kaepernick and how you can be shut down even though you're still at your prime and stuff like that, the fact that these guys were able to play the game the way they wanted to play the game, take financial cuts so that they can win a championship, and they have the level of control that they have. I mean, LeBron sent his whole squad to college so they could learn how to represent him.
Man.
And these guys are doing deals and brand deals and while still being woke and connected. Like they not out here talking about, Republicans buy Jordans too. I just paused for emphasis. So
that's your guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring anybody's name to that route, but that's your guy.
Yeah. So I respect them, and so I'm glad that whoever was financially advising Allen Iverson at the time, and I do believe that there was a season early on where he did have some, or he was getting into some troubles that was causing some financial troubles and stuff for him. But I'm glad that life after the NBA, that he has a payday coming. His money is consistent. He's adjusted his lifestyle to adapt to the money and stuff that he's making. And I wish that there was an infrastructure in place, not just for Black athletes, but for Black people in general, where we can be taught how to be better stewards over our money, how to make our money work for us, how to not just have a shoebox with some bread under our bed, but how we can have stocks and bonds and annuities and maybe some international investments and things like that, because we didn't have the privilege of growing up on an estate or in a compound, and we don't have great-great-grandfather slave money given to us and things like that. And so as a result of that, we just taught to be 18, get out of our house, get a job, get married, have a family, and make an honest living. But if we could start teaching each other how to thrive with Black wealth, I think we too, even as working class people, even the ones of us who have a little more notoriety than others, could just be better stewards over our money so that we set this next generation up to be better financially overall.
Yeah. So that was supposed to be the last story, but being that you brought up Republicans with Jordans too, Jordan, we saw The Last Dance, and I am a Jordan fan, I will admit, and it was certain aspects of that documentary where it was just like, oh man, like really, Mike?
Yeah.
One being him not being like, one thing I love about LeBron, he's so woke. He's gonna speak his mind regarding African American issues. But earlier this week, Jordan, agreed to give $100 million to improve racial equality. I thought that was definitely a grand gesture. And his quote was, "We've been beaten down as African Americans for many years. It sucks your soul. You can't accept it anymore. This is a tipping point. We need to make a stand, and we've got to do better as a society regarding race." What are your thoughts on that? Is it too little, too late regarding Jordan, or?
Well, listen, $100 million ain't never too little. So we thank you for your contribution. We thank you for acknowledging that you need to lend voice to this. Ideally, it would have been great to have had him acknowledge this when he was at the peak of his career.
Yes.
And watching The Last Dance, I still didn't feel as though he really recognized the error of his ways and making the decision if I'm not mistaken, he almost said if he had to do it all over again, he would have done the same thing again.
Said that.
That was, that's disappointing to me. Now, on a real note, like, during my years on the Tom During the Morning Show, I went to the Kentucky Derby twice, and twice, I was invited in the same group of people that Michael Jordan, like they hosted a group of people. He's not a very nice guy, outside of the fact that he wasn't really woke in the peak of his career in the NBA. But I'm all for evolution, and I'm a person of compassion and empathy, and so maybe at this point, watching The Last Dance back, hearing what people have said about him, now that his kids are of the age that they too could be Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, he recognizes that he needs to do something different. So I celebrate that. Now, while I celebrate him, I don't celebrate Kanye West. Kanye West could have written a $100 million check today, but at the end of the day, one, you need to be on your meds because you are admittedly off your meds. But two, I hate this climate where Black Christians are willing to forgive people disrespecting our race and our culture just because they say, I found Jesus. That is the same way we became slaves and stayed on the plantation. If you've never watched the movie Birth of a Nation, you should watch it. That's a good movie to see during this season, because you'll see how Nat Turner, at one point, how the slave masters used to bring him to the plantations and preach scriptures to you to remind you how you were supposed to stay a slave, because slaves were supposed to obey their masters. And so while we as Christians and Black Christians and descendants of slaves were able to say, no, you're misusing scripture. No, you're manipulating scripture against us. And all of that has evolved. To hear this man come out and denounce our history and say slavery was a choice and that our ancestors went dancing under slave nets and could have escaped with just all the foolish, ignorant things that this man went to the White House and took Candace Owens with him. And people were willing to give him a pass just because he wanted to remix Hezekiah Walker songs. And so, people have been remixing Hezekiah Walker songs since Hezekiah Walker songs put the song out. But at the end of the day, when you disrespect our culture, we should not be consuming you. And so all the people who still want to play Kanye records and say, oh, no, we got to stand behind him and we got to pray for him. Only thing I pray for is somebody gets him on a medication and then he goes somewhere and sat down and shut up.
Okay.
That's
and he got a shoe coming out any day now, I believe. He got a new shoe coming out any day now.
Well, that's a place where they should loot and riot, wherever those shoes are manufactured.
Yeah,
John Murray.
I kudos to him paying for the college tuition of George Floyd's daughter, but I do not support Kanye West at all.
And pay for your own college education, because clearly you're stupid.
Well, he had the album College Dropout.
As we can see, John Murray loves Kanye West.
God bless Kanye West. And I pray for his deliverance, because he's in reprobate mind at this point. Did you like how I made it biblical again?
I like the way you turned that around. All right. I like the way you turned that around.
I know John, it's scripture and a half over here.
Thank you so much, man. This was great. You're wealth of knowledge.
And I love what y'all doing, man. This is really great. And I too will be glad when y'all can get back in the studio, because I know the whole disconnected thing, it makes it tough on all of us. So yeah,
it does, man. Like we've never even been in the studio. That was the plan. Like in March, we was rolling it out, and then this happened. And at first, I was just like, you know what, forget it. But I was just like, you know what, let's try it. So
instead of the Breakfast Club, y'all was gonna be the Dinner Club.
The Dinner Club, right?
All right. I like
Thank
that.
You,
that was cute.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate
y'all,
it.
for real. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you coming on.
Everybody follow me on social media. And if you get a chance on my YouTube page, which is John Murray, J.A. It's my name, right? Hold on. I can't point this thing right. Oh, it's that way.
Right. There you go. That way.
Other side.
I feel challenged. Hold on.
That way.
Oh, no.
No, the other way.
There you go.
I think I really embarrassed myself doing it. That was kind of bad. But no, yeah.
But I just followed along and did it too. I'm like,
it's crazy, right? It's not as easy as you.
Yeah.
It's like when a man tries to cut his own hair in the mirror and you don't know which way to put the. I digress. Yeah. Follow me on social media. Use my name on Facebook. It's John Murray World. But I did this virtual collaboration of That's What Friends Are For. that was just about this particular season and this time. It's 24 artists. It's on my YouTube page. It's on my Facebook page. Check it out. Share it with somebody. If you miss your friends or just, you know, miss being around people and stuff, send it to some people you know, because, you know, people could use a little something to put a smile on their face in this season.
Such a great idea. Talk about really quick who's on there. Who are some of the artists on there?
It's 24 people. Coco from SWV is on there. Michelle Williams, Trinice from American Idol. My favorite male R&B vocalist of all times, Dave Hollister. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, Kenny Lattimore. Dance diva CeCe Peniston. One of my favorites, Avery Sunshine. Yolanda Adams, Leandria Johnson. The legendary Shirley Murdoch and Nesby Rubin Stutter. It's literally 24 artists. It's really great. A little something for everybody. And it just really feels good. It was something that I wanted to do just to really inspire people. Because typically when I'm at home on the weekends, every Sunday I go to brunch with my friends. And so being home for like 13 weeks and not be able to do my Sunday brunch has been really challenging for me. And so that's been like the hardest part of this probably whole self-quarantine thing. So I wanted to do something to make people smile, and everybody, you know, 24 amazing artists saying yes, and this thing coming together. And Charles Butler kind of helped me with some of the vocal stuff, and an amazing producer named Phil Walker did the original score and played under the artist. So it was a labor of love, quite a daunting task because I pulled it together in 72 hours. But I'm really grateful that it has impacted people, and it really is making people smile.
Warwick loved it. Dionne Warwick loved it. She said you.
She put on a statement and said she really liked it. They told me she was gonna call me, but I guess she's gonna call collect because she never rang my phone. But I love you, Dionne. Cousin Dionne, as Whitney called her, Cousin Dionne.
Yeah, we're supposed to have her on here in a few weeks, so I'm definitely tell her, hello, you owe Jawn Murray a call.
Call me here. She's gonna be like, who? What's his name? But no, for real, I love y'all, man. And
thank you. Love you too, bro.
Sometime this summer I'm gonna sit back in with y'all. This was fun.
Okay,
absolutely,
man.
I can't wait till I can't wait till we get off punishment.
Hello.
That's right. And don't you go back to Alabama, Coco. Stay away from Alabama.
I promise I won't.
Y'all be good.
All right, man.
All right, y'all.
Good night.
All right.
That was dope. That was dope, man.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
Big shout out to my boy Jawn Murray. He's funny, man. He's jovial. He's a wealth of knowledge and information, man. That's why he's a pop culture expert, Jawn Murray, man. He's all over. So yeah, make sure you follow him on social media at Jawn Murray on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram. And of course, you'll see him soon on I think even on virtually. He's been doing things MSNBC, CNN, of course. And like you said, when everything opens back up, Wendy Williams show and beyond. So definitely big shout out to our guest, Jawn Murray. What up, Coco? What you got?
More like a co-host, but it's what it's been real, guys. It's been another great show. Y'all rocked out with us for an hour and a half today. We really, 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 really appreciate that. Again, for all of those who it's just your first time tuning in, welcome to our show. Email all questions, concerns, or whatever to at rootaccess@gmail. rootaccesslive@gmail.com. I'm sorry, y'all. But it's been another great show. We hope that you tune in next week. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tune in every Thursday at 7 p.m. It's been great, guys.
Peace.
Correct.